Yeah.
Welcome,
So that's what we
everybody.
worked on.
Welcome. Thank you again for gathering for this
Good
Wednesday
morning.
session. Um, uh, my apologies. Sorry, I wasn't able to be here yesterday, but we will still get things going. Um, in good fashion or in good tradition, we'll start the same way. For those who are new, this is an open space where we address any marketing questions, and we also elaborate on questions around the use of Now site when needed. To maybe as well. But before we go into that, in good tradition, anybody has any question around the general use of Now site, things that they notice that they want to bring over? Go ahead, Lisa.
I'm just wondering about and I haven't activated mine yet, but I'm wondering with the change, is there any change to our AI avatars or how they're dealing with or supporting our AI avatars?
For the leader environment, you mean?
Right. Yeah.
I have to be honest, since I am far removed from the internal conversation, I can't really pronounce myself on that. You would have to reach out to support and see exactly. But technically, unless they decide to remove the service as it is, it should stand still. Not sure about the rest though. Is that okay
Okay.
as an answer?
There
Yeah,
are
definitely.
no new developments that I'm aware of.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't activated mine yet, but I'm seeing more possibilities now. So,
Yeah.
but
I think
I
the
I have one more thing to say.
Go ahead.
Baby Blakester is the bomb.
The boss
That's
baby.
all.
Yeah.
I mean, all of the
Thank you.
Blakesters are good. All of them are good. But Baby
Thank you.
Blakester
I love
is the
that.
bomb.
Love it. Hey, and I just thought of something too that you mentioned, Dr. Lisa, just to point out. So if you've had your leader AI and you haven't activated, I don't know if they're still allowing people to create their own. I know that we were right at that tipping point where people weren't able to create their own, and or if they didn't have enough people, they weren't keeping their own. So I know people that were on my team that didn't utilize it the best possibility or best possible way. They ended up getting theirs taken away, but they do have some other AI avatars that you can use. So you definitely want to get in touch with customer support on that.
Thanks. I'll do that.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
that is also as much as I know as far as that goes. The leader AI, we're going through some changes, but the possibility of having a generic one was still on the table. A generic meaning you would pick a character that would still convey the conversation, which still makes it a very powerful tool, like for direct questions or interaction that people that are comfortable and used to dealing with you or dealing with AI will have. So we'll see, but definitely a lot of possibilities, even as it is. Notice that most of the content that I share is from the team environment, but I haven't activated the leader AI yet because just that environment, which I'm pretty sure will remain, is a powerful tool, especially when you add the function of the board on your key on your phone for agility when you're sharing content. Keep that in mind, especially when you're out there at conventions and such. That is a tool. Paired with your digital card at a convention, you're armed and deadly because you have all your documents that you would refer to and you have all your contact. And these are all shared and accessible via link, right? So very good information, especially for these complex type client who have a lot of answers and needs for documents, right? You want to
I'd
add
also
something to
like to
that, Kevin?
add, I'd also like to add to Dr. Lisa and anybody else that's using or not using the unlimited to your full capacity. You can set up that team, whether it's your avatar or not, and you can set up the ability to bring people in for free. And then if they
Absolutely.
decide to upgrade, well, they're attached to you automatically. You need nine of those people that are at my AI, and your unlimited is free. So something to consider and think about. I uh I
Definitely.
think I
Thanks.
mentioned it yesterday in our training. I have groups for everything, and I also have groups or team sections for the different things that I do as well for that specific purpose. Because it's an easy doorway, if you will, to say, hey, I've got some free training set up here. And people seem to love it. Like I know a few of my teammates absolutely love playing with my AI avatar. But so something to consider. I wouldn't sit there and sit on it again. I'm always going to be kind of pushing you guys or nudging you to move forward instead of waiting. Don't wait for the right or perfect opportunity. Get it set up, start utilizing it so you learn how you can use it to your advantage. It's another
Absolutely.
resource that, you hear Virgil and I talk about all the time. So don't pay for it and
Absolutely.
not use it. Use the tools, don't be the tool.
Absolutely. For those who are not part of the unlimited and are not sure what we're discussing, it's really this section actually that are part of the links that I share. It allows you to create different environment. And through this environment, you can share content and courses. And this goes beyond even just a coaching. For example, if you have products and product listings, well, you can have a whole library of your products. And remember, now you won't have to carry a bunch load of products to a meeting. You just carry your phone, open up your team environment that you can access from your now site and start sharing the keyboard function, the different products directly. So it's a very beyond the chat tool, the ability also of offering that free tier of access, right? That was one of the winning things when they put this in perspective or in place. I was like, wow, you just gave so much to that idea. Remember when, go ahead, Marta?
While we're on this topic, so are you referring to the My AI? Because I did set up that, but I did not do the actual avatar.
No, it's the avatar here. The
Okay.
the ability to have your own avatar here, like Blaster has. This avatar that will answer question is in his likeness. This ability is what we're discussing. Now I think they give you a generic one, depending on the depths of your team. That's at least was the rule, and which was just, right? Because either or, even if you come into this space as a non-leader with the ability to invite people and also allow the guests to invite other, you now have this community resource that you can use, putting together things that are important for them, but also for you. Remember, for example, initially in the early videos when we were discussing this, we're also talking about what happens when you start building courses and funneling people out to from the free environment to paid environments, right? This was one of the major goal behind the disability content and course. And you can see you can still run this without having the chat activated. But definitely, if you have the unlimited, use the tool, request the information at least so you know where you stand, and definitely start thinking about how you can put this to use, right? What would you want to share to people? What would you want to have on hand every time you have your phone with you? These are the questions that build up this, right? And you can see I have more than one tool, one more than one. I have a French one that I was building for French content, not to get people confused. And initially, when this started, I had my own IMI brand of conversation. Go ahead, Robert.
So there's a concern here in the chat from Willie. He says, I'm concerned about the future of NowSite since they stopped communicating with us members. We never hear about updates. So I can personally speak on this as somebody that was in the center of things, if you will, from the Now Club. And, I still talk to Cheryl. I'm still involved with NowSite. I'm not going anywhere. But we have to know and understand that the changes that they made, good, bad, or indifferent for us, they were good for the company, right? So the fact that we had the affiliate program, it was absolutely fabulous. A lot of us got to, benefit from that. Some of us made money, some of us didn't because, one reason or the other. Anyway, when Eric Worre came about, we knew at that particular point in time that the affiliate program had to be stopped or shut down because of the agreement that they had made. And in essence, what ended up happening, right, is that because of that agreement, Nowsite grew in leaps and bounds, and it was from a corporate sense. So they found that they could go and do it from a corporate level, go work with a company, and then bring in that one company. They would bring in thousands of people when we had thousands of people that were affiliates, and we weren't bringing in that many people. That's just the harsh reality of the matter. I also know and can say on record that that was another reason why we would have continuous like sales and things like that was to keep the driving force of the sales platform moving so that we would continually get new people in. But unfortunately, again, not everybody goes to work, right? They'll get into the platform. Some people pay and they don't do anything with it. Others just kind of muddle around with it, right? So that being said, they had to make the changes that they did. You know, did they get rid of the affiliate program? Yes. Does that suck? Yes. Good thing for me that I always look at the positive side of things is that at least they still have the ability for us to earn it for free, right? So as I mentioned before, yeah, 25,000 exactly like Rita said. I mean, they were able to bring in 25,000 people just like that by going from an affiliate level to corporate, right? So anyway, you're very welcome, Willie. I just want you guys to know that Nowside that I know of is not going anywhere. They've expanded, they've gone to bigger and greater lengths, bringing in hundreds of thousands of people. So I wouldn't worry about the tools going anywhere. And I would stay close to your emails too. You never know. We might end up having some kind of, update or something that's going on. But I wouldn't worry about Nowside going anywhere.
That's
I
that was the big thing that was, for example, for me, made a difference in what is happening right now. Because definitely I was impacted in a different way. I was not an
right.
affiliate, but I was impacted in a different way. And uh, there's one thing that remains, the tool itself beyond the conversation around the income that came as an opportunity with the tool initially. The tool itself is a robust tool to get things going. That's one thing. And there's one thing also, most of us who are in this environment, right, have always had more than one income opportunity on the table, right? And this is basically one of the things that can happen in the dynamics of um, the multi-level marketing environment, not the network marketing environment, because as networker, we remain the same. We're independent ambassadors. Hence the importance of branding ourselves first, right? Because even if products change, and to be fair, sometimes the company will make a change, sometimes we will make a change, right? Even uh, decision and independence in what we do. So that's my piece of it. That's my take on it, in the sense that, well, the tool will remain because they're building something that is based on this tool, and whatever improvement they make in the direction that they are taking on this tool will also impact the base users, which are us, right? We're base users, and I don't think that this will go away even if they change completely their company model. The base user uh, service base will always remain, and we can still profit from what the tool does. Again, uh, in all fairness, the integration that we see allowing us to actually discuss branding on different levels, in this case, is made easy by the fact that they have integrated so many things. So keep that in mind in your decision process. And I mean, the tool is not broken. Maybe the deal has changed. Carry on, right? That's the most important thing. And yes, coming about the branding conversation, I'm not sure. First, I had something planned for today. I have something planned for today that hasn't changed. But before we do so, do we have any questions, shares, uh, takeaway from the masterclass session that we want to share? Any questions? People that have been going through the exercises and would want to go over that. I assume that there has to be some questions each
I
time I
have a
say
I
that.
have a question.
Go ahead, shoot.
Did anybody do their group from yesterday's training that needed to get a
Ah,
group
yeah.
done? Let's follow up there. Anybody needed to get a group done and actually got one done? I know Tarea, I think, was here and she said she got hers completed. So we
Yeah.
did get something accomplished yesterday.
That's
Yes.
good.
Super excited about that. It was super productive. I gave
Uh,
like 4 hours of undivided attention to something, which is huge for me. So yeah, thank you for that.
you're very
Very
welcome,
good.
girl. Happy to hear that. Sweet.
Groups are important. Groups are important. Remember what happens when you're using the generate lead option with the social media capture. What we are doing is going into groups to see who's there so we can take their profile and get more information on them. Same thing when we're creating our own environment, right? We want to drive people that we meet outside in those other groups and bring them in those groups so we can get more information, right? So this is important. The same way you join groups, you want to have a group where you also are striving to bring in that community, right? Whether it's a client community, whether it's a friendship community, where it's just a work community, right? We've come to understand, or at least value, the fact that getting together as a community has its advantages. We're getting together on marketing conversation. You have your own interests and most likely communities that you want to build around these interests, applying these principles. So keep in mind that. And community brings us also in the next conversation, the messaging, the conversation that you have to keep going in that group. Sometimes I think that is the unspoken hurdle that we look at. Go ahead, Rita.
Hey, and thanks for that. And for everybody who's contributed one way or the other, and for the questions as well. I like systems. And so systematically you would say create a Facebook page, then join other groups,
Mhm.
then create your own group so that you can get intel on people. You can pop them in Now site and get a good profile on them. Okay, so put them in there. Okay, and then you just continue to grow that group. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. The,
o-
the sequence, as I would put it, for example, is the natural journey across Facebook. First, and it's actually the natural journey around what we do in personal growth, right? First, I need an identity. So I'm going to create that personal profile and I'm going to try to get some friends there. Then, us as business people, we're going to have to create a product page because we want to expose that business conversation. Around that business conversation, around that brand, around these values, we want to build a community. So we fall into the need of creating a group, right? This is the step. Now, you have your group where you're focusing your conversation. You have two choices now. You can go out there with your personal profile, integrating certain groups, right? So that way you can have that personal conversation and lead them to your business profile and then invite them to your group where more goes on. Or you can do this directly with your business profile, where you get in there and do the same thing, invite them to see your content and take advantage of your community, the group, right? Before we offered the Now Site team environment that we just discussed, well, the group was that thing. That is where you tend to gather your community to give them free content, direct information, right? Direct access to deals. For example, join my Facebook group, and from there you take advantage of specific promos if I'm selling products, right? Updates on the wire for any deals or flash sessions, right? So that was the idea behind that concept, and it's embedded in the making of Facebook. Personal identity, so that way that personal identity can create a product page, a champion page. That champion page has its advantages. For example, as a on a personal page, I need to be your friend to see your content, right? I need you to accept my friendship request each time. If you're taking this to the commercial level and you expect to have 100 of people every day asking for friendships, then it would be too complicated to start liking. This is where the product page gets directly likes and follow, right? That's the big difference. On your personal pages, you get friend requests and you make friends. On your product page, you get likes and followers. And we all know what followers mean in terms of growing our network, growing our brand's presence, strengthening our brand values, right? So everything that we're discussing in branding, in clarity, in attributes, all that has an impact and follow-up on in this environment. Make sense? So personal page, business page. I was born and then I decided to go business. So I created a business place. So personal page, product page, and then I need to offer some kind of retention factor. So groups, right? And the way you separate your information, it brings us back to that segmentation conversation, right? If you like me as a friend, you're part of my friend segment of the conversation. You'll be exposed to my personal stuff on my personal page, family trips, this, that, this, that. When you go into my product page, the conversation tends to be strictly business with shared insight on how this impacts my personal life, but very light opening into my personal affairs. It's business, right? So these are the two things that you're considering every time. And if you're going to do business, retention, segmentation, I have to have a way to talk to my friend that makes them a valued relationship that is different than the conversation that I have with my customers, still giving them value as customers. Segmentation, right? I talk to my friend a different way. They'll get a certain emails with a certain energy, and the customers will, or the clients or the partners will get a certain type of conversation. And this is for people that are generally following the page, right? The posts that you're making, all these such conversation. But when you start looking at personal, breaching the gap, the distance, retaining, right? If I have a conversation, if I have a conversation with somebody through my post, it's a different relationship that we are building if I'm having a conversation directly through direct messages, DM, right? So the conversation changes. Same thing. I'm going to invite you to take a deeper step into the community, to follow the interest and get more insider information by joining your group, the privilege tier of conversation. So these are the way you're using these different these different pages. This is where segmentation also in emailing or conversation falls in. And this is also where now for today we will go into the topic of the day. Well, of course, there's still questions that can be answered around this, but today I had the interest of starting since we covered the branding aspect of it and the importance of the messaging through imagery, symbolism, and we have found values to scale our approach to help us make the right decision, right? We're always going to be coming back to that, of course. One of the things that we discuss in the branding exercise when we're talking about logo was the relevance, the clarity. That brought us to discuss the brand positioning, the importance of understanding its audience and the way they could react to certain things, right? Already starting the objection handling process at a very early stage, right? And one of the things that I didn't touch on was font. I wanted to save that conversation for what we're going to be doing today and over the next masterclass because font has to do with audience and how you want to connect with them, right? And font has a big impact across a lot of what we're doing, right? I don't think that so far they have given us the ability to change font on in the Facebook post, have they? They haven't, right? Or when you post
You
content, when you post document, it appears still with the fonts and the colors, correct?
Yeah, the only way that you can make font changes or anything like that is typically in a group. You can't do it on your personal page. When you're in a group, then you have the H1 tag, H2, bold, italicize, and you also have quotes that you can do.
Perfect. Even these slight,
If,
right?
but
Two,
there is a tool out there that is free. You can, I think you type in, oh man, I'll have to think about it and put it in. But there is a tool there, and then Rita and I know about another tool that we use that you can put it in, and it will change the fonts and all that fun stuff. And then you could copy and paste it onto Facebook. So it does allow copy and paste. So
yeah. I noticed that certain things copy and paste with font colors, highlights, and such. Others don't, but not even to make it complicated. At the source, just being able to know when it counts to put something in bold or italic is important, even if we're talking about the same font. If we're blocking to a system, right, and we can't choose more than one font, well, what do we do if we can't do colors, bold and italic? And that has its importance. Go ahead, Robert.
well, that's the other thing that just to point out
Mhm.
and mention about what we talked about yesterday about creating a group, because you can do those types of things to where you can impact the message itself to make it look better than what it would look like on your personal page.
Perfect. And that is actually something that I want to pivot on, making it better. There's layers to that, right? As we have come to understand. There's the whole structure of the message so that the intensity is there. But right now we're talking about the font as well, because font has its message, right? Just for example, in this uh, analysis where we're looking at the audience and how it impacts, well, you can see right there on the screen, right? If you're talking to a young audience, and it makes sense, if you're talking to a young audience that is part of the digital age, they most likely have been exposed to a certain type of repeated font throughout their course of learning or exposure. They'll have a tendency to favor certain fonts that are more recent, right? Just this. If you're looking at an older clientele, some people that were here before Facebook, well, they'll favor a certain conversation type throughout the font. I react very strongly to font just because I understand or I feel, or I, well, when there's a font and emotion there that is too present, it gets in the way of me appreciating the content, the lecture, right? As simple as that. And this impacts you, not just only on the website where the space is small to make that conversation each time. If we want to be efficient in the messaging that we are putting out there, we always are bound by the KISS rule. We have to keep it short and simple. That won't change, right? We go into complex conversation progressively, right? It's that funnel process that is applied. We have to bring them on a simple but powerful interest. And as we go down, elaborate. But we still have to keep them reading. So if the subject is interesting, but for example, the color is not appealing or the font is taxing, what have you brought into the conversation? Noise. It's just like when you're having a conversation with somebody and another person walks in the room and they turn on the TV and make it loud. And you're like, whoa. Now imagine on your website, the color is a person, the font is another person, and you're trying to have that conversation with the audience, right? If they're not playing in tune, the conversation gets very heavy, right? If somebody comes in here and they play rock or they turn on the TV, let's say, and they're starting to listen to program while you're trying to have that conversation, there's a problem. If somebody walks into the room on the other end with a phone and is having their conversation, again, there's a problem. And this is what your audience is submitted to. When you're at home, working from home, hey, shush, I'm working. Hey, you, go into the other room. Or when you're in the office, please close my door, right? you control that environment. But when your content is out there, you have no control unless you have put in place these things, right? And that everything goes in. The size, for example, of the font adds strength to what it's saying. The choice of being lowercase or uppercase, and these are simple values that also are available on all basic messaging platforms without even getting into the idea of the power of the font choice that comes next. Whether you choose to put things in cap, for example, I have a personal issue with people that always speak in cap in DMs or in groups, right? Because I was told you're yelling. If you're always talking in cap while everybody's talking in lowercase, you're voicing your emotion too loudly. As a matter of fact, when I'm typing and I want people to understand that there's emotion, I type in caps and then I switch to lowercase. So if you're in the group just talking in caps, I'm going to talk to you. But I'm like, hey, can you stop screaming? Right? Yeah, I'll say that politely, right? Hey, it's impolite to yell. Well, what do you mean? Well, you're talking caps. That's yelling, right? So simple things like that have power. So we have to understand that, especially from what we're coming from, the brand identity, the values. If our values, for example, are wellness oriented, very calm in energy, very I would say storytelling in the way we approach or the way we look for connection. Well, if we have a font that is sending a different energy than that, there is a problem, right? If you put a futuristic font on something that talks about wellness and health, I hope that we're talking about innovating wellness technology, right? Because that energy wouldn't belong there. Simple choice. The error that we make when we're doing these things, and this is also why what we are doing is so important. Coming back, for example, to my personal experience on screen with chat rating me and looking at my conversation. Well, I could have said, I like this and I'm sticking to it. But the conversation in the end is not about me. It's about my audience. How will my audience like it? Is this making it easier for me to share my ideas or harder? Right? Coming back to what I said in terms of conversation, when we're having these conversations, when we're trying to network with people, when we're exchanging uh, messaging messages, the emphasis is about them, learning as much as you can about them. Why? Because through that discovery comes the need, the need and the necessities. And you know what that means. When you have captured somebody's need and captures and pinpointed the necessity that they are looking for without even sometimes knowing, and you can match that to your product offer, you have a unique value position. Right? So all these conversation, all these small things are really always about the customer. How do they react? Right? And even in my brand conversation, right, in this quick study of my brand, it gave me some fonts. And I keep looking at it, even the colors, for example. When it offered these colors, they were far away from what I liked or were expected or have been using. And that was my objection to these colors. The nature of that objection was bias because it was about me. I looked at these and I was like, well, that doesn't speak about me. That doesn't tell me my red, my blue, my purple, they all went away. But coming back to these colors, they're now growing on me because there's a certain language that this salmon red orange type is giving me. Like it's called electric blue, right? I'm starting to get more accustomed with the color by learning about the name, by looking at it and coming back and see if the emotion changes, by imagining it in a specific way, right? This is the color side, and we'll have a conversation, I think, after we're done with the branding or the font. We'll come back to that color wheel and color conversation. I think it's important, the final touch, I would say, on the website, or any packaging, marketing packaging that you put together. But the core essence is the message, and that after the message is created, how it's presented, so how it's offered is important, right? And here I did notice one thing constantly throughout all the evaluation, and this is why it's so important to go through these step-by-step process that we went to, those basics, because there's repetition there. One thing that kept on popping across the brand analysis in terms of font or suggested calligraphy was Poppins. And Poppins happened to be a font that I love, right? So for example, whether I like it or not, whether I liked it or not, I would have been tempted to receive to use this, right? You have, or I not tempted, I should have been obligated to use this. If I choose to rely on the AI analysis, which is a good point, right? And I can always test the outcome. Get started, test it. That's the motion that we want you guys to get behind every time you leave these sessions, because these are small things. Thought, framework and patterns, right? We're not coding anything important. We're just thinking about process and making sure that they impact our brand or approach the right way, the way we weren't applying it, or that we definitely that didn't necessarily consider, right? So your brand DNA kit should already help you on deciding what type of fonts you should be looking at. Generally, when you're creating a message, I don't recommend more than 2 fonts, right? Because again, the more people you bring into that room, the more emotions, the more conversation is happening, right? So if you have 3 fonts in one email or in one paragraph, then there has to be a very specific reason why you're introducing these extra fonts. Generally, in a message, you have a title and you have a body. And these are the 2 things that you want to focus on, right? So when you're looking at your use of fonts, right, after you made your choice, regardless of whether it's a personal one or something that was dictated by AI, consider that, right? I'm revamping also a website here for my own brand. So I'm not going to be talking about that, but I'm going to do an example here. So message and font. This was an old website. Of course, at this point, the changes that I am doing on the logo is going to impact everything that came before, right? So, your interest. And call to action. So we have gone before over the basic structure of a message. And that, regardless of what we say or discuss, will never change, right? What I'm going to do, I'm going to use the affiliate here for now. Okay, so this here structure will never change. Okay. Whenever you're creating content, whether it's an email, whether it's a post, whether it's a website section, whether it's a group announcement, whether it's in a few short words or a semi-long paragraph, essentially you have to be working on this structure, right? The title will dictate the interest, and this is particularly important for us. If we don't speak to the interest of the client, rather we tend to speak about our interest. Most of the time, this is where also the confusion about the power of these titles will come in. When you are trying to write an interesting title, if you're focusing on what you're trying to say, you tend to have very long titles because there's so much that you want to cram into what you feel is important in the title that your title will become very long. If you're focusing on the need of the client, then you will notice that the titles will tend to be very short. And this is the right path to engagement, right? Because if I have to read a long title, I'm already in the exercise of reading. Give or take your strategy, it could be a automatic win or automatic fail, meaning that, well, this is too long to understand the title alone. What's going to happen for the rest of the conversation? And this is also true. If your introduction is too long and convoluted, then already in the mind of your audience, you're creating that, okay, this is going to be a long journey, right? So keep that in mind. Whenever you're applying a conversation, the kiss is always the most important. You want to keep it short and simple. And you always want to make sure that you have this structure there. And the shortest message are usually the best one, right? Here, for example, we have a little bit of uh, in basic emotions. When we look at this, we definitely will feel differently than basically when we look at anything else. The AI suggested Poppins. I'm going to put Poppins, right? One of the things that I will recommend when you're starting on your website for the goal of getting started and keeping it going, choose simplistic fonts. Because already, if you're balancing out titles, caps, you're already adding a lot of style to the presentation. Often enough, the choice of font is dictated by a desire of style, right? If somebody has been choosing font based on how the clientele will feel a lot, raise your hand because I want to understand also how you approach that. I want you to share that as a reinforcement. But often enough, we tend to pick those based on what we like, right? How we feel about that font. So be careful about that. If you are using or looking at your website and you feel yourself that there's a lot of emotion going through the conversation and that it's not clear no matter what you tend to do, start looking at what fonts are being used. Reduce the fonts as a general approach to two fonts across your website, right? This principle for website applies across every pages. Simple fact, if I land on your welcome page and the titles are a certain font and a certain color, I start establishing this emotional connection with your brand. And if I go to another page and the color changes drastically, then I'm forced to reconsider the previous interaction and weigh in the facts of the new experience, right? And if you are doing this repeatedly across your website, that becomes a problem, right? So usually people have these notions in place not to have too many fonts, but fundamentals. This is the reason why. Of course, you can have these stylish in between. For example, I have this conversation here. I will click here, go back to content. We'll go to here we'll talk about see, something that will take us away from uh, here. Oh, yeah, fuel by creation. Fuel by creation is something that I live by. It's a conversation, it's a motto. So here I'll do this. We're gonna do friendly, professional, persuasive, excited. Um, fuel by creation is also like what technically is a driving force around a community, right? Regardless of what you do when you're in a community, you want to create motion. And the more people that you bring in, the more motion you create. Hence, coming back to what you did yesterday, creating that group, right? Adding more people to your community. Hence, what we shared with Vicky, for those who were at the Lost Transition, the idea of sharing your ideas with no restraint and understanding how you profit from that, right? Because when people borrow energy from you, you also can get it from them. So sharing ideas, getting other people's wheels turning about what you think is a great thing because they might bring more to you. Actually, they will bring more to you. Whether they share it directly or execute it, you will see patterns that you can pick up on, right? Heading about. So simple things like that are important to consider, right? Keep your message simple. Keep the conversation, the focus of the conversation about how your audience needs or wants or likes to receive things. Remove yourself from that conversation point of view and place yourself in a different perspective, right? Um, this might sound crazy, but I'll illustrate. I had a conversation with somebody who said he believes he believes that 1 plus 1, okay, 1 plus 1 equals 3. One of these conversation, and I said, yes, you're right, because in a one-on-one conversation, when you bring interest, right? There's fruit that is created from that. We're not just adding ourselves and gaining strength in numbers, right? With your interests, with my interests put together, we generate a new field of conversation. And from there can spring a lot more ideas, right? And this is important. Sorry, there's a phone ringing here, it's throwing me off. So that is important. Sometimes it is important to remove yourself from what you generally understand as or perceive as being what is facts and start observing that from the distance because that's basically what marketing is. When you're considering your approach and saying, well, if I do this, and this is also very present in when you're playing, for example, games like chess, right? Because you're forced to think in the other person's mind. So if I do this, how are they going to react, right? And when you're doing this, you're putting yourself outside of that interaction because you have to imagine yourself going through that process and imagine the person reacting from that, right? And that point of view, I think it's very important to get to in what we're doing. It's also what is important or what is at the basis of personal development and professional development, right? There's you on a personal side that you are retraining yourself in a way to grow professionally, right? And you are third point of view because in between that energy that flows back and forth between your personal uh, 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 um, identity and your business identity, that go between is your third point of view perspective. On a professional side, if I look myself acting like that personally, that wouldn't echo in or reinforce my brand, right? On the personal side, if I saw my brand and when I see my brand doing this, I carry over, I can see the value and such, right? So you're putting yourself that way when you're evaluating yourself. So should you put yourself in that perspective when you're creating content. You'll see that when you do that, finding what you want to say or need to say will become very easy because we're always talking or considering the other person's reaction. And the more we know that audience, the more we're able to anticipate certain things. Make sense? Am I overstretching things or
No,
staying?
no, totally makes sense. Totally makes sense, brother. 10 minutes
So
to the top of the hour.
perfect. So coming back to this conversation around font, coming back to what we have done, since I trust that everybody has their brand identity booklet or has started, and in there we already have suggestions from the AI on color or font. Even if you haven't done that, if you have written your two-line rationale and you plug it into Now Cite the business profile, it will give you the general conversation that we're on here, right? Colors, fonts, suggestions. Weigh these and then start using them the right way. Start first. And often enough, we don't know how to evaluate those, right? These are suggested to us, for example, when we have our brand two-line rationale, right? And we are coming back to our business profile and now site, and look at this color. This is a blend of these two colors that the other AI suggested to me, if I'm not mistaken. It's very close to uh, these two already, or this here, the blend of those. But you see, even if you're not sure, in the idea of getting started quickly, if you haven't done your brand identity booklet, at least when you're back in this environment in Now Site, you have a better gauge of what it's doing for you and what you should be considering with these offers. Okay. From that point on, you can launch your your website if you're creating a new, or if you have your templates, go back to what you have and start reassessing it differently, right? Start looking at, okay, well, what was I doing or trying to do? What am I missing, Doria? I see you have a big smile. I want to know what's going on.
Well, once you're done with this segment, we have another how-to question that's in the chat.
Go
So
ahead, shoot.
the question
Let's shoot. What is the
is
question?
how to spell your name. Is it the French version or the American version? With the E, without the E?
Yeah, yesterday we were debating on that with the graphics that we had to create. And I was like, I know we've had this conversation. I'm pretty sure he told me it was an E, but it's not that
Yeah.
way. And I see in your profile there below your name there or your picture,
Mhm.
it's with an E. So,
Yeah,
oh,
the
and they
right
want to
way
know
to
your
write
age.
it, that you're still gonna have to guess. This prize, like I said, there's gonna be a prize for those who guess right. There's gonna be a prize, right? Actually, talking about prizes, I want to introduce something that you might take advantage or not. I've been opening the room earlier. And look earlier than the time we're supposed to start and looking at who shows up first on a regular basis. And I wanted to recognize that interest, right? Because if you're taking time out of your week to come and also are eager to be here and you show up first, consistently, it's a lot of love when I see that
So,
happen. So I want to recognize those
so
who
did I
came
win
through
a
the month.
prize?
Yeah, well, you don't you get more than what I'm about to offer from me anyway, right? So I want to recognize those through the month of May that have shown up consistently before the others. And for the winner, if you want, if you're available, I'll send you a Calendly and we'll have an hour to discuss on any subject that you want. I can consult on it. So this month of May, Larry Potter, Richard Brooks, Johnny Dalmini, Marta, and Dina consistently showed up within the top five, and consistently first, Marta. So, Marta Spears, I'm going to be sending you an email with a Calendly link. And when you're ready, you choose, and we'll have an hour and we can discuss anything: logo, marketing, a general funnel conversation, same thing. And I'm
His
going to be,
age.
no, I'm going to keep you guys guessing, keep the suspense going, keep the suspense going. So yeah. Um, yeah, and the name, yeah, Virgil. Virgil always has the French way, it's with an E, but it's not even pronounced in French. So it's a
No,
silent E, right?
you should have
And then
heard. You're gonna have to go back and watch yesterday's replay.
are you gonna send it to
I
me?
was like Virgile.
I heard them all. Virgile, Virgile. Um, but for me, they all ring the same way anyway. So it's weird. Um, well, I'll share a little bit. I won't give you my age, but I'll give you a piece of my persona, right? Um, in certain places, if you go and you ask about Virgil, they won't know who it is. Because Virgil is what is on my official documents, right? That's what I was born with. But then I was baptized with the name David. So in certain circles, I was introduced as David, and they don't know me as Virgil. And in others, I was introduced as Virgil, and when they hear David, they're like, "What? Who? No, forget about that one. We know Virgil. We want Virgil. Forget David." So you guys will get to choose. There's something happens though when you call me by a certain name, and I'll let you, oh, you will get to experience it if you choose to. But certain people are
Virg.
like, yeah, that's me.
That
Yeah,
was
yeah,
good.
version has been there for a while, that one. I think it's a natural way of
Virgil.
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 Ooh la la. Ooh la la, Doria. Doria. Yes. So very important coming back to our subject there. Um, Keep that in mind. I think the most important is always, I think, and this is, for example, coming back to how we started this conversation about now site, the relationship that we built went beyond the tool. The connection is the most valuable thing. It's especially as entrepreneurs, especially as not even entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, now I have a different understanding or a different appreciation for the word entrepreneur and independent. These are two different words. Independent. You want to put them together, independent entrepreneur. But because an entrepreneur can still be bound by deals and agreement that forces them into things that are not necessarily aligned with his values. He's an entrepreneur, has to make a living, but independent keeps and adheres to those core values that make up his brand, personal brand or business brand. So I have a newfound respect for that because they also have their own implication, right? Entrepreneur, independent. Independent is, hey, fly, 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 right? And also go through the storms by yourself, which is actually one of the greatest thing I think that's becoming the making of who I want to be, in a sense that when things are difficult and you are actually applying proper logic to it and they are difficult, it means that you're on the right path. Because things that are worth having, and that's a cliche, things that are worth having require your investment in passion so that you like it yourself. Well, man, I took out, look at Robert and the last transition. Oh my God. He's key. I've been putting hours with a big smile. I have more miles to go with a big smile. Imagine, well, man, I have this client who contracted me. I've been 30 hours in the programming. There's 600 to go. He's paying, but you're an entrepreneur, right? But you're independent. Are you independent in that service? Not necessarily. So two new values that are so important. And you only get to be an independent. And that's funny. To be independent, truly independent, you must have a community with you. You must be a part of a community or spearhead a community. Do you see? Independent, meaning that you should be that lone wolf, but not, right? To truly be independent in this world, in at least our environment, you have to have a community. Even if you're an independent store, you have to have a community of clients, right? If you're an independent contractor, you have to have a community of families that you work for that refer them. If you're a dentist, right? You have an independent practice, you have that community of families that you refer, that you check on a regular basis. Go ahead, Robert.
So while you were talking, something came to my mind that happened today that I'd like to share with y'all. And maybe this might help. I don't know. I hope it does. And it's just funny. Rita knows because we talk a lot, the way that my universe works. But I saw a post from a friend of mine today that said, "Did you know that you could do your whole zodiac sign and stuff on ChatGPT?" I was like, no, let me check it out. So I did, right? And all I did was I typed into ChatGPT, I said, can you do a complete astrological birth chart and my soul purpose based on that and what is my soul name? So it said, yeah, just put in your birth date, your exact birth time, and the birth location. It gave me this huge readout, right? Now, some of you guys might not be into this. I'm not deep into astrological things, but some of these things, they still kind of talk to me, if you will. But why I'm telling you all this is I wanted to mention at the very bottom of this, I found it pretty intriguing because when it came to the career soul summary, it said you were built to lead, teach, and inspire transformation, not
Oh,
through
wow.
pressure, but through vision and presence. You're not meant to play small. You're here to lead movements that disrupt old models, build income by nurturing others at scale, use your voice, brand, and story to influence, create systems, content, and teams that outlast hype. I just found that pretty intriguing and interesting with everything that I was doing. So if you're like that kind of thing, pop it into ChatGPT, see what it tells you about you, and maybe you're on the right path, maybe you're not.
Absolutely.
But get in
I-
alignment, my friends. Get in alignment.
you know what? There's so much. It's so powerful because sometimes they say that when science reach a certain level, it's almost looks like what would happen or what would be of the supernatural realm. But if you break it down together, you have a computer that is tapped into all these knowledges. So it could answer this question. And not only that, if you look at us naturally, just based on what we're doing here, we tend to align with people that are kindred. Why? Because they have the same tendencies, the same pattern. For example, one thing that we do in marketing is we look at the digital footprint of people. And you'll notice that people that have the same interests will follow the same thing. So um, uh, it is conceivable that looking at just certain factors on a long range of time, how people behave. I found that people that were born in my year, and I was about to say it, but I won't, or that will give you a direct.
I was
You
just
were
gonna
like,
say
who is
like
that?
begets like.
So yeah, I found that people that are born in my year have a certain tendency that I have, even more so that are people that are born in my month as well. I
Mhm.
have deep connection with these people, right?
Yep.
Naturally, you have deep connection with people that are the same month or date of birth because of the fact that it's the month of my party. So I'm generally happy. And why are you so happy? It's my birthday month. I'm just happy. Oh, me too. Okay, we have that in common and things like that. But at a deeper level, you'll notice that, well, certain signs will repel or will attract. And no matter what you do, you'll see those tendencies,
It's
right?
all energy and energy portals. Like begets like, my friends.
Yeah,
And
I
on that
believe a
note,
lot.
we will see everybody when
Next Tuesday for sure, and we're
Monday.
prepping up for next master class where we'll look at really practical application of these fonts, colors on website, so that we
Well,
can look at that final touch. But remember, to get there, we have to have something solid already in place. If you only have the digital card, think about adding the about section about yourself and a short description about your service. That would make it a website that we can start using and start optimizing for more engagements. Good.
and we will see some of you Monday.
Yes, absolutely. My bad. Monday first. I lost translation. That's for sure. I'm like, of course you mentioned it. So yeah, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're all on. If possible, we'll get into a Thursday pretty soon again, balancing out certain schedules as an independent, loving it, and we'll get to it. How's that?
Love it. I think Dinah had a question beyond that. Have a
Go ahead.
fantastic day. We'll see you guys Monday.
Yeah, right quick. When is your birthday?
Oh, you're trying to
Oh,
get my
mine
age
mine is July
reversely.
19th, 1969. I was born the day before we set foot on the moon, if you believe that happened.
Well, mine is in July too, Robert.
Really?
July the
What?
5th, 62.
Oh, there you go. See, this is exactly what Virgil was
Yes.
talking about. It's
And when
almost our
is yours,
birthday,
Virgil?
girl.
Virgil, don't you feel left out?
Oh no,
Virgil loves
oh
the
no,
way
you
that I
won't.
just did
Oh no,
that.
you won't. Oh no, you won't. I'm
All
stealing
right.
the
I got
See
your
y'all
thunder.
back,
next
Virgil.
week.
I got your back.
Y'all
Have a
have a
great day,
blessed
everyone.
one.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.